What if I told you there were engines so brutal, so wildly overpowered, so mechanically defiant, that they didn't just break speed records, they broke the very fabric of motorsport law? These weren't just engines, they were declarations of war on physics, on rival manufacturers, and on the rule makers who scrambled to contain them. Today on Regal Rides, we're diving deep into the roaring, fuel-soaked history of 7 American engines that were simply too powerful to be allowed on the track. Some got banned by NASCAR, some got strangled by government regulations, and some were priced so far out of reach that only the boldest, richest, or most foolish dared to buy them. So buckle up, because by the time we get to engine number 3, an engine that made 657 horsepower in an era when most family sedans couldn't crack 150, you're going to understand why these mechanical monsters were locked away or legislated into extinction. Before we unleash these beasts, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell, because this isn't just another car countdown. This is a tribute to the outlaws of American engineering. Engine number 7, the Oldsmobile 455 Rocket. The torque monster insurance companies feared. Let's set the stage. It's 1970. The muscle car wars are in full swing. Every young guy with a wrench and a paycheck wants something that'll melt tires and win stoplight races. Enter Oldsmobile and their 455 Rocket. Now, every GM division had a 455 cubic inch big block, but the Olds 455, it was different. Where Chevy and Pontiac were chasing top-end horsepower for magazine bragging rights, Oldsmobile engineers took a different route. Low-end torque, raw, ground-shaking, asphalt-ripping torque. This engine wasn't about screaming to redline, it was about twisting the earth off its axis at barely over 3,000 RPM. With 500 lb-foot of torque on tap, this thing hit harder than most modern diesel pickups. In real-world driving, that meant effortless launches, blistering acceleration from stoplights, and a kind of brutal, unrelenting shove in the back that muscle car guys still talk about today. But there was a catch. Insurance companies noticed. By 1971, they were targeting high-displacement engines like heat-seeking missiles. The moment they saw 45 on your fender, your premium went through the roof. Young buyers found themselves unable to afford coverage, and sales of rocket-powered 442s plummeted. I talked to an old-timer recently who had a '74 442 back when he was just 23. Worked the line at GM, making decent money. But his insurance, over $3,000 a year, just for liability. That's more than the car itself. He sold it in frustration and still regrets it to this day. To make matters worse, Oldsmobile had an image problem. People thought Oldsmobile was your dad's car. Luxury and comfort, not performance. So while Chevelle SS and GTO owners strutted at the drive-in, 442 owners were flying under the radar with more torque than any of them. Today, good luck finding a numbers-matching 455 Rocket. Most were yanked out, hot-rodded, or left to rot. If you come across a legit W30 Ram Air version, grab it. It's a rolling piece of torque-infused history. Engine number 6. Pontiac 455 HO, the last great muscle car revolt. Now let's move to another GM division with a bit more of a rebellious streak. Pontiac. By 1971, the golden era of muscle was starting to crumble. Emissions standards, insurance hikes, federal safety mandates, horsepower ratings were free-falling. But Pontiac engineers weren't done fighting. Enter the 455 HO, their middle finger to bureaucracy. At a time when everyone else was detuning their engines, Pontiac gave the HO a 4-bolt main block for durability, massive valves for airflow, and a Rochester quadrajet carb that inhaled 800 CFM like it was going out of style. The result? 335 horsepower and a stump-pulling 480 trained of torque. This was a car that could pull a sub-14-second quarter-mile right off the lot with a 3-speed automatic and skinny bias-ply tires. Imagine what it could do with slicks and proper gearing. One retired Pontiac engineer told me over coffee at a car show, "We knew the party was almost over, so we decided to go out with a bang." But by 1975, the writing was on the wall. The final 455 HO barely made 200 horsepower. Regulations and corporate cost-cutting had finally done what no rival car could: stop Pontiac's muscle car legacy in its tracks. Today, a true numbers-matching 455 HO, especially in a Trans Am or GTO, is a holy grail for collectors. Prices are skyrocketing because this engine wasn't just a power plant, it was Pontiac's last stand. Engine number 5, the Buick Nailhead 401, the misunderstood torque king. Next up, we head to Flint, Michigan, for one of the quirkiest big blocks ever built, the Buick Nailhead 401. Nicknamed the Nailhead because of its small vertical valves that stood straight like nails in a board, the 401 was a torque monster long before truck owners knew to ask for one. Built between 1959 and 1966, this engine didn't care about high RPMs or flashy horsepower numbers. Instead, it delivered brutal diesel-like torque down low in the rev range. In Grand Sport trim, it made 360 horsepower and 425 lb-ft of torque. Peak torque hit at just 3,800 RPM, nearly 1,500 RPM lower than its competitors. But here's the problem. Hot rodders didn't understand it. They treated it like a small block Chevy, slapping on big cams and winding it out past 6,000 RPM. Predictably, it fell flat on its face. I've got a buddy who's been building nailheads for over 30 years. His advice? Gear it like a dump truck, keep the RPMs low, and let it eat. Unfortunately, Buick's old man car image didn't help. In the 60s, teenagers weren't lining up for Buicks. They wanted Camaros, Mustangs, and GTOs. By the time hot rodders figured out the Nailhead's potential in the 80s and 90s, most of the good cars were long gone to the scrapyard. Today, finding a buildable 401 block is like stumbling across buried treasure. They're rare, valuable, and when built right, absolutely devastating on the street. Engine number 4, the Cadillac 500, the unlikely Corvette killer. Number 4 brings us to Cadillac. Yeah, you heard that right. The Cadillac 500 cubic inch V8 was introduced in 1970, making it the largest displacement production engine of the muscle car era, and one of the most powerful. 400 horsepower, 5,500 of torque, all available just off idle at 3,000 RPM. That's more torque than a modern Hellcat. Picture this. It's 19, you're in your brand new Eldorado, dressed in your Sunday best, heading to a dinner party. At a stoplight, some kid in a Corvette LS5 gives you the stink eye and starts revving his motor. Light turns green, you roll into the throttle, and that Cadillac just walks away from the vet. Without drama, without tire smoke, just pure, crushing torque. The 500 wasn't marketed as a performance engine. That was Cadillac's secret. Since luxury car buyers weren't chasing quarter-mile times, the engine flew under the radar of both insurance companies and federal regulators. But emissions laws hit hard and fast. By 1971, horsepower was dropping. By 1976, the mighty 500 was making just 190 horsepower. I once interviewed a Cadillac engineer who worked on the 500 project. His words still ring in my ears. We built the most powerful engine in GM's history, and then watched the government strangle it. Today, a numbers-matching 1970 or 1971 Cadillac 500 is worth serious money, especially in pristine Eldorado form, the ultimate sleeper engine from the golden age of Detroit XS. Engine number 3, the Chrysler 426 Hemi, the elephant that broke NASCAR. You want dominance? Here it is. The Chrysler 426 Hemi, better known simply as the Elephant, was introduced in its mission, destroy the competition at Daytona. And that's exactly what it did. Richard Petty showed up to the 1964 Daytona 500 with a Hemi under the hood. The competition didn't stand a chance. Chrysler went 1-2-3. The Hemi wasn't racing. It was delivering a public execution. 425 horsepower. Nearly 500 lb-ft of torque. Hemispherical combustion chambers that breathed like nothing else on the track. The Hemi was so dominant. NASCAR banned it in 1965. Bill France, NASCAR's founder, called it too specialized. Translation, too fast, too embarrassing for Ford and GM. Chrysler's response, pure genius and pure spite. They said, fine, we'll sell it to the public. Thus was born the Street Hemi, detuned slightly for reliability, but still a monster at 425 HP. It would run mid-13s off the showroom floor, with a few bolt-ons, low 12s. But it wasn't cheap. The Hemi option added nearly $1,000 to the price of your new Mopar. That's why fewer than 12,000 Street Hemis were ever built. Today, 6 figures minimum for the real thing. The Hemi wasn't just a motor. It was a legend in iron and aluminum. Engine number 2, the Chevrolet ZL1 427, the $1 million Camaro. Now let's talk about insanity. The Chevrolet ZL1 427. the most expensive engine option in GM's history. In 1969, for just over $4,000 extra, you could order an all-aluminum, race-spec 427 cubic-inch V8 for your Camaro. The engine itself was designed for Can-Am road racing. Forged pistons, steel crank, aluminum block and heads, zero warranty. On the street, this thing could run mid-11-second quarter miles, with street tires and full interior. Only 69 ZL1 Camaros were built, that's it. To put it in perspective, more Bugatti Veyrons exist today than ZL1 Camaros. The reason? Price. You could buy two SS396 Camaros and still have cash left over compared to one ZL1. Today, these cars easily break the $1 million mark at auction. The ZL1 was Chevy's nuclear option, a middle finger to corporate bean counters, and a love letter to pure, uncompromising speed. And finally, number 1. One more, the most infamous banned engine in American racing history, the Ford 427 SOHC Cammer. After Chrysler's Hemi destroyed the field at Daytona, Ford engineers had 90 days to fight back. Their answer was nothing short of mechanical insanity. They took the rugged 427 side-oiler block, added hemispherical combustion chambers, and topped it off with single overhead cams, powered by a 6-foot-long timing chain. Nicknamed the chain that ate Detroit, this engine made 606 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, and with dual carbs, 657 horsepower. In 1964, one Ford engineer I interviewed said we built it to run 8,000 RPM all day and scare the hell out of everyone in the process. But NASCAR, Bill France took one look and said, absolutely not. Too European, too advanced, banned. Ford's $2 million engine program, wasted. But Ford wasn't done. They built 500 Cammer engines, slapped off-road use-only warnings on them, and sold them to the public. The Cammer found new life on drag strips, powering the rise of funny cars, and forever earning its place as one of the most feared motors ever bolted into a chassis. Today, finding a complete Cammer engine will cost you over $100,000 just for the motor. So there you have it. 7 engines that were so powerful, so innovative, or so politically dangerous that the only way to stop them was to ban them. From Oldsmobile's torque monster to Ford's forbidden Cammer, these engines represent the absolute peak of American automotive engineering and rebellion. Which one surprised you the most? Drop a comment below. Tell me which one you'd want sitting under your hood. And if you want more outlaw automotive history, check out our next video on the rarest barn finds ever unearthed, including a real ZL1 Camaro that sat untouched for 40 years. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and until next time, keep those engines running, because they don't build them like this anymore, and they probably never will again.